Hello and welcome to another fun-filled, fabulous interview at embraceallofyou.com. This is your host, Dr. Mary Pritchard, and today we have the fabulous, radiant Gabrielle Loomis. So Gabrielle was named after the great archangel, and Gabrielle Marie Loomis is a messenger for the modern day woman. Her belief in the power of women's spirit, along with her own personal journey of radical transformation, has empowered hundreds of women to awaken to their true potential and step into their brilliance. And who doesn't need that, right? Gabrielle has a bachelor's degree in business and mastery level training in counseling, coaching, energy psychology, and human potential. She is sought after speaker for women's groups, communities, and a frequent guest on radio, including Hay House, Seaview Radio, and 1100 KFNX. Whew, it's a mouthful. She offers life-changing group and individual programs on her website, GabrielleMarieLoomis.com, which you'll find that link right below us. She currently lives in Phoenix, where she's having a cloudy day, she says, so it's not over 100. She enjoys the mountains, sunshine, and all that the Southwest living has to offer. Some of her favorite activities, including incorporating the stillness, the breadth, and the depth of the desert. And it is beautiful. I'm in high desert. I think you're considered low desert. It is gorgeous. A focused gal on a mission. You'll often hear her exclaim, "I have so much to do in this lifetime. I need another one." I love it. She's a lover of beauty, creativity, and passion, and strives to incorporate those into her everyday life. Welcome, Gabrielle.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here and so glad you're doing this telesummit.
Me too. It's going to be fun. Yay. So why don't you give us a little bit of background about you? So obviously your name was kind of a good indicator of what you ended up doing with your life. Have you always known that you were a messenger, or did that evolve over time? Kind of give us a little history for why you do what you do.
Sure. Definitely evolved over time, although I think my mom, who is quite intuitive, must have had some sense in terms of picking that name out for me, because she really did name me after the angel. And I think like so many of us on this journey that do this work, I've had my own personal transformation, my own personal journey, and that really is the foundation for what I do. And, I have a lot of training, but when I'm sitting across from somebody or teaching a class or doing something in a group, I always draw upon my personal experience just as much as my training, because I think there's something really powerful about saying, you know what, I've been through parts of this too. And my journey was really extreme in a lot of ways. I found myself in my early 20s severely depressed with a lot of chronic health conditions that were actually becoming debilitating by my mid-20s, unable to work, alone, depressed, unhappy, and just with this sense of, I know that there is supposed to be something else for my life. I knew that this wasn't supposed to be it, but I didn't necessarily know what that was or what that looked like. I just had this really faint sense that there was supposed to be something more than really the misery that I felt like I was living in, and that was it. I'm sort of, sounds dramatic, but I really was pretty unhappy. And yet on the outside, I looked like I had everything going for me. I graduated from a good school, I had a good family. I sort of had my whole life ahead of me, yet on the inside, I felt like I just wanted out, I just wanted out of the experience of life at that point. And, I definitely reached a bottom with it, and that bottom became sort of the beginning point of my own transformation journey. And it really set me on a course and a path to look at all areas of my life, mind, body, spirit, so physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and really see that things needed some changing in my belief structure, mostly, in really healing and clearing trauma and emotions, changing my thought patterns. And of course, all of that led to some physical shifts as well as just taking better care of myself, which was another big piece of it. So I kind of went on this journey of transformation, and I literally sought out everything I could find. I mean, I was that person that went to every workshop, read every book, did every class that I could think of, really searching for answers. And I did that for a period of time. And, in that process, just met some amazing people that helped me heal, and really started to shed this kind of identity that I had created for myself and this life that I was living, and changing my thoughts and changing my beliefs. And I watched my body heal physically as I cleared emotions and, came to a much more authentic and real relationship with myself. And just my own sort of self-worth and my own self-esteem, and connecting to my body and my sort of internal power. And so everything then started to shift for me. And that's really the point that I thought, I wonder if there is something in my own journey that could be of benefit to somebody else. And so I started with just a simple coaching program, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just kind of coach a few people here and there. And as soon as I really stepped into that, it became clear that there was something there for me to do, and there was that message for me to deliver. And so I just kept doing it and kept getting more training, and in the pieces that I found to be so helpful for myself, but also in working with other women, I noticed that there was sort of a couple of key things that women needed. And so I just got more training and more education, just continued to work with people. And sort of over the years, I've helped hundreds of women and put together just programs that focus on those key pieces, and continue to use my own experience and my own journey. Because I say, if this can happen for me, given sort of what a low I was in, we are all hardwired the same. It's possible for everybody else too. So that's kind of how all that evolved for me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. So I have some questions for you about kind of your journey and along the way, things that you may have reached. So you make it sound really easy.
Yeah.
And I know, you and I have talked before, and you talk a lot on your website about the fact that sometimes it really feels like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, because sometimes we self-sabotage. And so can you talk a little bit about what you see in terms of your own journey, in terms of your clients, about women really kind of going through these periods in their life where they feel like something has to change, but they think, well, but I can't do it, or what do you see, like when I know like our viewers are watching you and they're like, gosh, she makes it sound so easy. So I know you must have had struggles along the way.
Gosh. For sure.
So can you talk a little bit about how you self-sabotage and how you can overcome that?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think self-sabotage is a big component of this healing journey, especially for certain personality types that one of their life themes is around empowerment or power. So feeling disempowered and having this sort of life theme around being empowered. I have this theory that we all have about 4 life themes that we just continue to circle and work through. And it shows up in different ways and in different areas of our life. And I think power, the idea of power, is one of those themes. And I think for women that are that have that theme in their life, self-sabotage is a key component, because self-sabotage is misused power. It's an attempt to exert power and exert control, but it's misguided. It's misdirected. And so we're exerting that power in a negative way towards ourselves instead of applying it in a positive way in a moving forward direction. And so whenever I see that, I know that there's a woman that we've got some 3rd chakra stuff to work on. There's some experience of feeling disempowered. And so they're in that struggle. And that was absolutely true for me. I have kind of this, real strong streak to me, but when it goes south, it gets turned on myself. And that can certainly be destructive. But I think the most important piece of all of that, and I think I mentioned to you, I sort of have these 3 steps that really sort of coach women through. And it's the first step, which is create a context. And what that means is to truly understand that everything, every single thing that we are experiencing in a moment-to-moment basis is an expression of our consciousness. And oftentimes it is an expression of our subconscious beliefs, our disempowered beliefs, our prior traumas and experiences where we, felt challenged and struggled. So everything is just a recreation of that. And if we can sort of step away from the struggle and step away from, oh my gosh, here I go again, self-sabotaging. Mm-hmm. If we can take a step back and look at it as this is parts of my belief system and parts of my subconscious just expressing themselves, it really becomes much easier to then step out of it. But what happens as humans is we get so embroiled in it, we attach and we just hang on to that struggle and we identify with it, and it becomes so big. And yet really it is just an attempt for us to heal, and heal in a very sort of strange looking way. So one of the things that I've discovered for myself and for other people is that, our mind and body are both self-healing organisms, meaning that left to their own devices, our body and our minds will both heal. So if you cut yourself, you don't have to tell your body, oh, send white blood cells there to fix that, right? You don't have to do that. It happens automatically. Our mind is the same way. If we experience something that leaves us with, toxic emotions or trauma or some experience that was negative, our mind will work to push that to the surface for our own healing. And so that process is happening whether we want it to or not, and whether we're guiding it or not. So whenever things are showing up in our life, it is that healing that's trying to take place. But instead of seeing it as healing, instead of seeing it as, oh, this is something that is happening for me to clear or release, we get all wrapped up in it. And we get in that, either that victim place, or we get in that trying to control place, or we just get stuck in those places. And then we lose sight of what's really, truly trying to happen. So I have not had an experience yet with myself or my clients that when we don't approach it from that perspective and we break down the pattern that's showing up, that we haven't been able to find its root and haven't been able to clear it. 100% across the board we can.
Yeah, and that's, one of the things that I like to say, which is the different phrasing of what you've just stated, is basically life happens for you, not to you. And so everything happens for a reason. If you just have to figure out, why did universe send this for me? What needs to be healed? What needs to be resolved?
Exactly. And what in me is still projecting this experience, and why, and maybe that's a piece of me that's still feeling broken, or maybe that's a piece of me that's feeling unworthy. And it's like all of life is conspiring for us, not against us.
Exactly. So if that's step 1, what's step 2?
Yeah. So then step 2 gets into step 2 and step 3 are a combination of what I have seen most women do. So let me kind of back up and just share that. Okay. I started with coaching. That was the first sort of training I did, and that was my first kind of modality. And what I quickly found is that you can give people the solution and a step-by-step guide to the solution. And really only 20% of people actually need that, women. Only 20% of women need a step-by-step guide. Most of them know exactly what to do. They've read a million books. They've gone to all the lectures and workshops too. But there's something that is preventing them from doing what they know needs to be done. And so I find that women fall into one of 2 groups. They either are the group that sort of knows what to do and will oftentimes just spin their wheels in so much activity. I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And they end up just sort of like this spinning of this flurry of activity and trying to get all this change to happen. And they exert all this energy and just kind of spin, 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 and find themselves in that self-sabotage pattern. And at the end of whatever that time period is, whether it's a month or 3 months, they are right back where they started. And they've just exerted all this energy.
Guilty.
And you're laughing. Yeah, you relate. Yeah, yeah. And it's exhausting, right? It's exhausting. And at the end, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm standing in the same place. I haven't even moved 2 feet forward. And it's this very disempowering experience, right? So that's sort of one category of women. And then I find the other category of women are more inclined to do sort of the inner work. And so, they might spend hours and years journaling and meditating and reading and filling their mind with all of these great concepts and ideas. But that's as far as it goes. So there isn't an implementation of that. There's just the understanding of what could be, but there isn't the actual journey from the head to the heart or from the head to the body that says, now I'm going to take everything I've learned and put it into practice.
I'm so we have that one too. It's so much easier to give people advice than to take your own advice.
Yeah. Well, and what I found that I did for years is I flipped back and forth between the two.
Yep.
So I would have periods of months of like, oh, okay, I must just need to do more therapy. I'm going to just journal more. I'm going to do this workbook. I'm going to read. I'm going to do all this, right?
Yeah.
And then I would have periods where I was like, forget all that. I'm just going to go out and do X, Y, and Z. And I would just go back and forth. And some women do, and then some kind of stick to one group or the other. And neither really moves us forward because the reality is that the only way for change to happen in our life is if we take action. Change is not going to happen by sitting on the meditation cushion and doing nothing else. In the sense of if we don't take action and don't make changes in our life based on what we learn in meditation, right, or what we learn from something, our life isn't going to change. However, if all we do is try to change the external without dealing with the internal blocks and the internal belief systems and the operating structures that keep us limited, then we're going to spin, spin, spin and self-sabotage. And so what I found is you have to do both. You have to do both. And you have to do them in order. So you've got to clear the inner blocks first, because trying to, sort of build a house on a shaky foundation that has cracks and holes is going to lead to a house eventually falling down, right? So you have to do the inner foundation work. It really is looking at all of those belief systems that are running the show, and we didn't even realize they were running the show.
Yeah.
Is that...
But so isn't there, just my own experiences, and part of it may be the spinning kind of thing. It seems like, it's not like it's 1, 2, 3 and you're done, right? It's 1, 2, oh, go back to 1, 2, 3, oh, wait, I just uncovered something else. I need to go back to 2.
Yes.
There's some bounce back. life is a journey, right? So, I think bounce back in between the steps. Because you need to learn. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it,
Yeah, and they're definitely fluid in that way, and we do revisit all of them. When I work with people, I sort of give, okay, here is kind of the overview, is we're going to move through these steps in a sequential way.
Okay.
And in that process, we might touch on 3 and go back to 2, because as we start to do some more positive action, we have resistance that comes up to that. Okay, let's go back to step 2 and look at what is that internal block. Let's work on that. And then we start taking more action and something shows up and we start to feel victimized. Okay, let's go back to 1 and realize what's happening. So you're absolutely right. They're fluid, but in an overview, we kind of move through them in somewhat of a sequential way.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So if someone is just starting on this path and they want to do these steps, what would a daily practice look like? So what would you recommend that we do every day to really step into our goddess selves and live these empowered lives and stop self-sabotaging and stop holding ourselves back and really dive in and heal that stuff. So where do we start? And then like, what would a maintenance program look like on a daily basis?
Yeah, well, I think that's a great question because it is one of the things that it's sort of like my number one thing when I talk to people is the first thing you need to do is create a daily practice that is me time. That is time that's used to connect to yourself and time that is set aside just for you. Because I think as women, we do tend to, for many of us, put lots of priorities above ourselves and lots of priorities above our own time to really connect and fill up. And so I say, you have to have that 20 to 30 minutes every day and use that time in a combination of different things or different tools. One day you may need to just write because there's a lot bubbling up in you and you can feel it sort of at the surface, but you're not able to really kind of get to it in your busyness of the day. Or use one day to read something that really is expanding your mind and is teaching you some different principles. One of my absolute favorite modalities is tapping. I have all my clients do that as their own kind of at-home practice. So learn how to use tapping to tap into some of the things that are below the surface. And also tapping can be a great balancer. It can get us emotionally balanced. It can be a great release tool. So use some of that time to do some tapping. Use that time for meditation or to do some guided visualizations. Whatever is needed, get into a rhythm where daily you are taking time to just connect to yourself with no one else.
Right. Just you time. So for the women out there who are going, yeah, where am I going to find 30 minutes in my day? How do they start? Can they break it up into 10 minutes 3 times a day? Can they start with 5? Like, how do you, for the women that are like 30 minutes, seriously, where am I going to, like, how do you walk them through that process to get them to that point?
Yeah. Well, I think there are a couple of ways to do it. One of the ways is start your day a half hour earlier and end your day a half hour later. So depending on if you're a morning person or an evening person, that tends to work. If that does feel like too much, then break it into 2 15-minute segments.
Okay.
And maybe 15 minutes of it is during your lunch hour and maybe 15 minutes of is right when you get home for work. Or I have some clients where 15 minutes is right when, they have some sort of flexibility with work where they may be the first ones there and so it's quiet. And so they take 15 minutes before they start their work day to
15
really
15 minutes after you put the kids to bed.
Yeah, or 15 minutes after you put the kids to bed. Yeah, exactly. And, you can incorporate, other sort of self-care things that feel good in terms of take a bath or have some music on or candles or things like that that feel nurturing and supportive. But it really is because it's more than just the actual sort of act of what you're doing. It's more than just the journaling or it's more than just the reading or listening or whatever you're doing. It is sending a signal inside you, inside your brain and body that says, I matter and I am important. And no matter what is happening in my day, I can value myself and I can nurture myself. And as women, a lot of times we nurture everybody but ourselves. And so it is creating this consistent message that gets through that says that I'm important and I matter and I can nurture myself. And it is remarkable what shows up when we take that time. And all of a sudden we find time in the rest of our day to do other things. So by creating that, half hour a day, it really does open up to more action steps, to more things that move us toward our goals, that move us forward. It's just an energy thing. We take that time, we send that message inside that says I'm important, I matter, and just all of a sudden it almost feels like magic, but it's like, oh wait, now I find myself doing this, and now I'm doing this, and now I can find another half hour here, and all of a sudden I did this and this and this, and it just has this momentum. Yeah.
So one of the things that you and I both kind of share is our understanding is the body being a messenger.
Mm-hmm.
So because this summit is, where body and goddess meet, could you talk a little bit about why the body is so key to us really owning our own power and taking control of our lives?
Yeah, because the body is a reflection of our life experience. And our body holds everything. There's this great book that came out, I want to say like 3 or 6 months ago, called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's by Bessel van der Kolk.
Okay.
Anybody that's interested in understanding this sort of piece of it, it's a great book. And what he talks about is that all of our life experience gets encoded and stored in the body, energetically, in our tissues, in our muscles, in our organs, and in our systems. And so what happens is we mentally and emotionally disconnect from our experience and the aftermath or the result of that experience, especially over time. We just sort of disconnect from that. But the body doesn't. The body is sort of a recorder. It keeps track. It knows, hey, I had that experience and it never really got healed. And so I'm holding on to that energy or that experience in some part of my tissue. Mm-hmm. And so if we want to truly heal those experiences and clear sort of the limiting beliefs and limiting patterns, all we have to do is look to the body, because the body will always show us what's there.
Yeah.
And so when I'm working with clients, we do a lot of sort of body-centered counseling, body-centered coaching, where we are constantly in this dialogue with our body. And it's amazing because somebody will say, I have no connection to, maybe it's a trauma, or maybe it's an experience, or maybe it's a belief of I'm not worthy. It's like, I sort of know it's there, but I really don't feel it. Like I don't really have a connection to it. And then we sort of access the body, and we just access the sensations, and we begin a dialogue with the body, and it takes us right there. It takes us to, the root of those memories or those experiences, and we can use the body to then heal. So the body it's our ally, it's our best friend. And for so many women, we see it as something that we battle and struggle with. Yeah. But it has carried everything for us that we have been unable to process. Mm-hmm. Just carrying it for us, waiting for that moment where we can become conscious and then process it.
Yeah. Yeah, my body does a great job of kind of speaking very loudly and clearly when it does. Like, oh, okay.
Right, because it does it not only for past stuff, but it'll also do it for current stuff.
Right, yeah.
Your body's going to let you know, hey, you're overgiving, you're stretching yourself, you're working too much, you're not taking care of yourself, you're not nurturing yourself, and the body, communicates to us in all these ways. And of course, even those of us that do this for a living, we still can sometimes go in that automatic, of, I'm just going to not listen to that.
Yeah. I saw my healer yesterday, and she, we've been working on this one area of kind of stored trauma and stored old patterns and beliefs for about a month now. And finally we got it. We got it really feeling good, and it's not causing me pain anymore. And she said, okay, now your job is to not fill it back up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we get busy, and we know this, right? We know this, but we get busy and we forget, or we're like, oh, I'll deal with that later. And then it never gets dealt with. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of sits there.
Yeah, and that's part of that kind of takes us right back to that 30 minutes a day. So when we're doing that 30 minutes a day,
right,
we are ensuring that doesn't happen. And I mean, I'll be the first to say I struggle with that sometimes too. I'm just too busy. I have too much time. But when we have that daily time, it doesn't let us go weeks and months of something being there, and we're just ignoring it. And we're just in our either go mode or busy mode, or we're taking care of other people, whatever that is. It sort of ensures that we're going to look at and see and address whatever's there.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you have a really cool free gift that you have agreed to share with us that will kind of help us get started on this journey. So what are you giving us?
Yeah, well, if people go to my website, which is
Right below us, there's a
yeah,
link.
below us, and my full name, GabrielleMarieLoomis.com, there's a poster, and it's 16 ways to show up for yourself today. And it gives you just 16 different small and not so small ways to put yourself first. And these can be incorporated into your 30 minutes a day, or they can be bonus, outside of your 30 minutes a day. But they're, again, sort of small and not so small ways to really prioritize yourself and show up for yourself today and make yourself sort of a number one priority.
Yay!
Yeah,
Thank you
it's
so
pretty
much.
colorful. Yeah, it's great. I would say
So for all of you who are watching us going, I don't even know where to start, go there because there's 16 ways for you to start.
And I tell people, print it out and like put it in your car, put it on your bathroom mirror, in your fridge, because oftentimes when we're kind of churning about something or maybe struggling with something, it's like it just doesn't even occur to us to do some of those things. So like have it handy. So, you can just glance at it and look at it and say, oh, okay, maybe I can do that for myself today.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being with us today, Gabrielle.
Thank
and
you.
I want to thank all of our viewers for being here. And so before we go, if you had just one thing out of everything we talked about, or even stuff that we haven't talked about today, one thing that you could encourage women to go do right now, what would it be?
Wow. Okay, so if I had that one thing, I truly think it would be to recognize that you have the power to transform anything that you desire, and that what you are experiencing is happening for you and not against you. And that if we can approach life in that way, sort of anything is possible.
It changes everything.
Really does.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much,
Gabrielle. Thank you.
And thank you to everyone for being with us today. This is Dr. Mary Pritchard at Embrace All of You, and we will see you tomorrow for another fun-filled interview. So thank you and have a good day. And we will see you tomorrow for another fun-filled interview. So thank you and have a good day.